Welcome to the Dave Palma Show, the podcast that revives, restores, and awakens your innermost capabilities.
You have the training and the talent to succeed, but do you have the guts to fail?
I love what I do. When you love what you do, you want to be the best at it.
Today is about the power of you. You will change the world.
Find your path to success through the journey of those who have succeeded. And now, your host, Dave Palma.
Hi, welcome back to the Dave Palma Show. And with me in this episode, I have someone who's the principal attorney, had him on the show before, of the Saber Firm, LLC, where he practices business, sports entertainment law, and human rights advocacy. He's also a filmmaker. And lastly, Saber is a staunch Pan-African community activist and organizer in DC, Maryland, and various countries in the West, East, and South Africa. Currently, Saber is active and serves important roles in several organizations. As executive director of Kazi's Wahenga, a Maryland-based 501c3 non-profit organization dedicated to advancement and empowerment of people of African descent, he's developed and coordinated programs which includes African Birthright Tour, Swahili language courses, Know Your Rights classes, and criminal expungement clinics and leadership conferences. Taalib Saber, welcome to the Dave Palma Show.
Thank you, Brother Dave. I appreciate the invite.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And it's so great to hear your voice and have you back on my show again. And I'm sure it's not going to be the last time. And we're going to arrange some regular contributory shows, because the format of my show changed a little bit, but of course it's going to bring more politics in and more of my causes, which is similar to yours. And as I said, I have a family member who's very much like you as well, so he's very community based as well. So we're going to get into all that off camera and off microphone another time. Right. But let's get into what happened to you, because actually I want to catch up with you because you've been in the United Nations, which was it in Geneva or New York?
Yes, in Geneva.
Wow, I've been there. I've been for a tour around there, and I went to the other one by the big lake where the waterfall is, the human rights. There's a human rights one, and I stayed there actually. I've been there twice. But the one you spoke in, I would imagine, is the big one by where all the other big organisations like the International Red Cross and things like that, which is further up the hill. All right, further up the hill, away from the town centre, away from the city centre. That's fantastic. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I'm a board member of Ed Food Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization based out of California, but they have consultative status with the United Nations. So we're able to sit in on some of the hearings and participate, have side events, things like that. So when I knew that this event, the United Nations Permanent Forum for People of African Descent, which is the first of its kind, and it serves as a consultative body that helps to advise about the issues that are going on with specifically people of African descent. So we have a pathway now to go directly to with any of our issues and troubles that we may face wherever we are in the world. So when I knew that this was coming up, of course I had to be a part of it, but also because I had a case that dealt with seemingly the overwhelming view of how police brutality is, whether it be their nonfeasance or not acting or something that they actually did do. I wanted to bring that to bear on an international level because we're trying to pass, or we're working to change the law that would allow police to be held accountable and just the government to be held accountable for instances where they stand around and absolutely do nothing while someone, in my case, drowns, in a body of water. But just even when something's happening, the duty that they don't have a duty to act unless it's for the larger public, the larger society. So I was there to present on that, in addition to other issues that plague us just as a people. And it was an amazing experience.
Yeah, wow. How did you face it's not your first time in Europe though, surely, or is it?
Well, technically it is that I stayed because everything used to be
Okay.
Europe.
All
But that
right.
was my first time actually in Europe too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, UK is kind of slightly different. So it does kind of have that blending with the American culture a little bit. But it's not American culture. It's very European, but it's kind of different there compared to
Uh,
mainland Europe, you know. But yeah, I mean, everything's similar, you know, the kind of historical buildings and everything else.
hmm
So I
hmm
suppose it's a different it kind of UK is blending in both of that because
It was
obviously.
cold. It was cold too because
Oh,
I we
very
went in
cold.
December.
It's cold now. It's
So
snowing there.
I
It's
had
snowing
to
now.
adjust.
I bet Geneva's cold because there's a lot of skiing going on. Did you see the ice on the snow on the hills and everything?
Yes, I saw it.
Yeah.
Didn't participate in it because I'm hot at the time. But
Yeah.
but I did see that some of my colleagues actually went to ski too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. So that's good. That's good. Yeah. So it's a very expensive sport or hobby even. Um
Indeed.
uh, so but yeah, let's get back to what happened. So yeah, that was a fantastic speech. I was listening to it on YouTube. So if anyone gets a chance, do go and search for Talib's speech at the United Nations. I'm sure you can drop the link at some stage, or you could tell us now where they can find
Yes.
it.
So if you go to the Saber Firm YouTube page, it's on my YouTube page. Also, www.thesaberfirm.com. I have a clip of it on my actual law page, on the law firm's page. So you'll see it
Yeah,
there too.
fantastic. Yeah. So tell us now how this all evolved. So it's your first time in Europe. What caused you to? I know you said you wanted to actually speak on an international level, but what actually happened? How did you manage to get to the UN to do it? To just inspire our listeners, and then
Sure.
tell us how you managed to get the speech across because that was fantastic, that speech. So when people do hear it, you know, I didn't really like the way too much. I mean, maybe she had to when she had to interrupt. Say, okay, that's enough. That's enough. But I
Exactly.
think she was just doing her job. But they obviously were engrossed and really, um, uh, what's the word to use? Captivated with your speech. But of course, there was a time management issue going on. I think that's all it was,
Right.
really.
And the story behind that is so several people spoke prior to me. That was the first day. So the first day that they had the forum,
Mm.
I spoke that first day toward the end. And there were several people that were before me. And there was one particular person that acted as if time did not exist at all. And that's when, she started to kind of rein in the time of things. But the inspiration actually comes from the background that I have with Pan Africanism and
Hmm.
being a Pan Africanist, because, growing up and researching and reading the teachings of Marcus Garvey
Yeah, Marcus Garvey.
and
Yeah,
X, things like
yeah.
that, people like that. And
I
those are,
made sure I use those books in my politics degree, Marcus Garvey. They weren't having it at the London University, but I had to, you know what the institution's like.
it is. Yeah,
Unless you go
it is.
to Howard University, you know, you're just not having
Exactly.
it.
Exactly.
They're
That's
just
not
not
happening.
they're not having that it's in their reading list. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do the Black Jacobins. I'm gonna do I'm not just gonna do the French Revolution. No,
Exactly.
I had to throw some Malcolm X in their face, you know. So, but anyway, Talib, let's not go down that route. So yeah.
So yeah, I did. So studying them and organizing in the community, it's like, okay, the United Nations was always a place that I wanted to go to be able to elevate our issues to more of an international realm. And a lot of times, what happens here in the United States, I'm sure there in the UK, it's very when it's national, it's civil rights, right? And it's almost as if you're asking a parent to parent themselves. Whereas you take it outside of their hands to another jurisdiction, then at least in theory, they should be able to push back a bit and you can kind of elevate your issues and things like that. So seeing how Marcus Garvey, W.E.B. Du Bois, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and some others have taken that trajectory, I'm like, okay, I studied these greats, I organized, this is what they would have wanted me to do, because this is what they preached and what they talked about. So that kind of started my let's just say ignited me to be able to start the path toward that way. And then I was blessed to be a part of an organization that just had the tools in place to where I could go to the forum and meet a whole bunch of different people of African descent from Colombia to, I think I met a brother out in London too.
All right,
And
okay.
yeah, and where else? Peru
Mhm.
and just all over the world. And it was just an amazing experience and feeling because when at the United Nations, people are speaking different languages and they have the translators there.
Yeah.
So once you put those headsets on and then you hear someone just like, and you don't understand it, but when you hear the translation, it's like, whoa, okay. I thought my thing was what I was saying was passionate. They're completely going in, and that inspired me more. As a matter of fact, there were some sisters, some elders that were based out of London, and they spoke maybe a couple of people before me. And when I tell you that they had the room on fire, I was like, oh, how am I going to compete with that? So much so after I had my speech, I went to them and just was talking and building with them just about the organizations that they're doing or the organizing that they're doing in London. And I think they mentioned something about monthly or weekly calls that they have every Sunday, but just being able to exchange ideas and energy with people from different places all around the world that were Black like me.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I think my first time when I did actually go into the United Nations building. That's a kind of annex by the
Mm.
big lake in Geneva. So it's right by the actual city centre, but there's a big lake there near the high street, near the kind of main busy area. And I met a political entity that was of African descent there as well. So there is a representation there anyway. So yeah, and it's great. It's great that you've made that kind of step now forward to the international side, and we look forward to you coming in London for some of our some of our
Sure.
activisms there as well, hopefully. So
Absolutely. I love it.
yeah, so just keep the good work going. Um, so yeah, the speech went well. Tell us what was behind that speech. I did hear it, you know, but just tell our listeners more about that. And
So what I wanted to capture was the plight of African people, no matter where we were and what we need to do as far as collective unity coming together in order to empower us as a community. Because we have a large population. When you look at people of African descent as it relates to other populations, we probably are, I want to say, the third largest group behind the Chinese and the East Indians as far as numbers. So like for us to be that large of a group and then be in individual silos, all parts of the world, all around the world, that lessens the power that we have. But when we come together, that's when we can have influence. And if you just take the continent of Africa, for instance, you can fit the United States, the UK, China, I think Russia, Germany, and some other smaller countries in the entire continent of Africa. That
Mhm.
shows the vastness of it. It shows how large it is. It shows how many resources Africa has that's been extracted out and then sold back to them for what 100 times the rate that they got it, taken out. So I wanted
Mm.
to capture that. I want to capture the plight of what we're going through here in the United States with regards to police brutality or food apartheid. I don't call it a desert, because that's not your thing. So food
Yeah.
apartheid or even the educational system, because believe it or not, a lot of stuff was cut out in that speech too, because I had to
Oh,
cut it
really?
down.
Yeah, yeah.
So like even with the educational aspect of it, the mass incarceration, how there's a million missing Black men that are in either suffer early deaths or they're incarcerated from society. That's a large aspect of us as a group here in the United States. So I wanted to capture that in addition to show what's going on around the world and say, hey, even though we're going through this here, Brazil is getting Brazil's population of Black folks are getting slaughtered there too at faster rates and higher rates than what we are.
Mm.
In South Africa and then other parts of the continent, East Africa, you're seeing similar things where people are getting mauled in the streets, or you're having some type of, even if it is like do I want to call it like a shell government or somebody that's placed in power that really is the puppet of Western powers that doesn't have the best interests of African people at heart. and just doing the bidding for other people, even them that are installed are damaging our people there. So I wanted to kind of capture all of that within the speech in the short amount of time that I had.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it's a great move, as I say, to have got on the international stage, and I'm hoping that you kind of continue that on, and expand on that work that you've set foot outside now the US. So well done on that. I want to now move on to the other work you're doing as executive director of Kazi Wahenga, is it?
Wahenga.
Wahenga, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I think the last time we spoke, I didn't really speak about that. So I think it's pretty new.
Yes.
Could you tell me how that evolved and what that is?
Absolutely. So when we spoke last, it was in my thought process of something I wanted.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But it was, I would say, maybe shortly after I spoke to you, I started to compile my board and do other things. So basically, Kazi Wahenga which is Swahili for work of the ancestors. So I wanted to create something that would be for the community and serve as a vehicle to break down any type of blocks that we may have had or barriers to success. So there are 4 seminal programs. You have the Expungement Clinic, as you mentioned earlier, which we have workshops that we'll do and clean the records, because a lot of times that is what bars someone from getting a job, and particularly our people, is the criminal record that they may have. So we have that program, excuse me. Second program is the Leadership Conference. So this is when we'll bring people along the likes of you and others to come speak to the youth, whether it be virtually or in person, to empower them both professionally and personally. Because again, if you want to be a podcaster, if you want to be a lawyer, if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a writer, whatever aspirations that you have, artists, then we want to match you with somebody in that field. And we believe in the philosophy of each mentor should have a mentee and a mentor, know? So being able to have that principle in place, that's the second program. Third program is the Swahili Noun courses. So we want to be able to teach our people a mother tongue. Like, we speak English here. A lot of Americans, period, don't know many other languages outside of that. And even during my travels, I find myself going to places and at minimum, they speak at least 3 languages. And I'm like, well, dang, I'm here studying Swahili and I only know English like fluently. So being able to have that as an option for the community. And then also that expands their global experience and where they can go and where they can use it. It's very marketable, And then the last one, but the biggest program, is the Kazi Birthright Tour. And that's the program where it's an African Birthright Tour. So we're taking youth and young adults to the continent of Africa. We're starting off in Zanzibar. That's where it's going to be this June. But we're taking the youth and young adults to Zanzibar, where prior to them departing, they're going to spend 8 weeks studying Swahili. So not only are they going to get the skills that they can market themselves with, but because Zanzibar is Tanzania's East Africa, they speak Swahili predominantly. Though, they speak English as well. But getting them prepared for that. And then when they're there, they'll have the beautiful tour of going through the spice rainforest, the spice tour. And then they'll have like the slave castles that they get a chance to go to, speak with some people who were freedom fighters for some of their movements, and a whole host of other things that they'll have an experience of.
Fantastic. Well, Taalib, I would definitely will be following following up, as you say, with the progress of the Kazi Wahenga. And we certainly will want you more regularly on my show, bringing up other aspects of what's going on. And I know in June, this is actually being launched. Is it in June? You said, or
yes, the end of June, early July, for 10 days.
10 days, right? Fantastic. So we're definitely going to have a episode with you on that. Hopefully we're both available and nothing's going to get in the way. Probably maybe say 2 weeks before or something like that. We'll do the post recording so that it's scheduled right on time. Fantastic. Well, Taalib, it's really great having obviously linking back up with you again, and I don't forget my guests so easily like that. And obviously, I do remember because as you can see, my politics was almost bang on what your politics was as well, amongst all the kind of other civil rights things. I was the one thing before you go, we're talking about police brutality. And I don't know if it's racism, but the black cops that murdered the guy in LA recently, I think it's 5 black cops from LAPD.
You're talking about Memphis, Tyree Nichols?
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you want to say anything about that, or you don't know much about it, or you wouldn't like to?
So what I understand, if it's the one that you're talking, because it unfortunately happens so often, I have to ask you which one you're talking about. But
right, okay.
If it's the one in Memphis, which I think that's the one you're talking about, to me, that is a example of systemic racism and self-hate, because there's so many different theories about what happened. There was talks about one of the officers knew him personally because he was dating his ex or something like that. That's right.
Yeah, that's the same case. Yeah.
Right. So, but I think it's an example of self-hate in addition to systemic racism, because a lot of times, even even to this day, because we can't properly take out how we feel on those that oppress us, you do it to those that don't have a voice or are already underrepresented and oppressed. And I think that was the issue there with that case. I see that anybody that does it in a grave injustice to us as a people, period, whether you be black, white, or any other ethnic group, I think you need to have a severe punishment with that. And with this, hopefully his family will get the justice that they deserve. But I think that it also highlights the police, the thin blue line, the blue line, where it still divides us. And the thing that needs to happen is, once they start attacking their pensions and saying that you need to pay restitution out of your pensions,
they will definitely, definitely. I think some of those guys inside, I mean, I've been in that similar institution, and some of those guys don't even realize how much they're in that culture and they're sucked in with a different culture. And then, like you say, it's very systemic, very institutionalized. And then that's when it becomes a big problem, really. And it's a leadership problem and a political problem, really, so organizational. So. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that one up, really, because I know, you're kind of the right guy to bring that up for my listeners to kind of hear that little tip. But we don't want to digress. I'd just like to really say thanks for coming on the show, and I know you got back in touch with me as well, and I really would like to have you on the show a few more times on a regular basis, contributing to whatever's going on around the world with the topics that we can speak about. But in the meantime, just thanks once again for coming and speaking to my audience today.
I appreciate you, Dave. Thank you.
That's all for this episode. Thanks for listening, and remember, if you want to support what we do, then share, subscribe, and leave a review over on Apple Podcasts, or head over to my website, davepalmer.com, and click on Rate Show. Well, that's all for now, but I'll see you in the next episode of The Dave Palmer Show.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.